Hey you guys, before the actual video starts, I just want to make something 1000% clear. This is not a tutorial for a beginner. So if you are someone who is just starting out with Blender and you're just starting it, this is not the video for you. You are going to be very confused, and there are going to be points in the video where you're going to see something I'm doing and be like, what the hell are you talking about? So I do not recommend trying to follow along in the things that I'm doing. You can just as easily watch the video if you might want to learn something, but to actually follow along with everything I'm doing, I do not recommend you do that, because you will be confused at some point, and it may be like a major point. This is an intermediate level tutorial for Blender, but I'm going to be going over the basics of the tools that you'll be using to eventually start to animate something, as well as go over the process of using the add-on and the site of Mixamo. So those are the things that I'll be going over. I'm not going to be live animating anything. I'm going to be speeding through that process. So this whole video is mainly to showcase the tools that you'll be using and how to use them as far as the animation is concerned. So just keep that in mind while you're watching. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope the video is as clear and concise. I hope I go over everything. I hope I remember to go over everything, and I hope I do Blender's animation justice, and I hope I do the whole Blender community justice, because it was videos such as this that have helped me, throughout the last 3+ years of using Blender. And to be honest, I just want to, give a quick thank you to everybody who's ever made a Blender tutorial, for the first place, because you are the reason as to why I'm sitting here doing this today. Not only because your style of video is awesome as hell, but I'm sitting here and I've learned how to use this very program from all of those videos. So I appreciate you, and I'm here today and I'm making my own, and I hope that I do you guys justice, and I hope that I do it well. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and yeah. Hello, my name is Zara, and in today's video I will be doing an intermediate Blender 3D animation kind of a tutorial type of video. Now, I mentioned this back on my Instagram, I think like 3 weeks ago, I want to say, and yeah, here we are. This will not be a Blender UI tutorial. Like, I'm not gonna show you how to use Blender. I'm going to show you the best way that I believe is to use the tools that are available to you to animate within Blender using the 3D space here. This will not be a grease pencil tutorial. This will not be anything super crazy, but I will be very detailed with the things that I'm going to talk about, which are going to be kind of like the basics, but I'm going to be extremely detailed with those basics. So yeah, and right along with that, I will show you as well how to use the site called Mixamo in order to rig your own character. If you don't like rigging, which I don't like rigging, it's annoying and it's really hard, and sometimes you just want to jump in and just animate right away, and here you go. You can select a number of characters or select a number of preset animations for those characters, but we will not be doing that today, because it's just going to be about yourself trying to animate within Blender, the program. I will also be going over the some of the problems that I have personally had in the past and even some problems that I still do have, and I will go over how to fix them, and I'll be trying to be as clear and concise as I can. And there will also be a bunch of video chapters so you can follow along in a very nice and organized way. If there's something specific that you may want to know how to do, you'll be able to skip right to it. For example, this little me just speaking here, this is part of the beginning intro type thing, so you can skip past this if you want. However, this is the intro to the video, and if you want to know what it's going to be about, I recommend you stay and to continue listening. But yeah, that's about it for the intro. Let's go ahead and move on to the first thing that you should probably want to be doing if you want to rig your own character prior to animating. So if you want to have a character rigged, stay, and this is the chapter, kind of a section, but if you just want to animate any kind of character, you don't personally have a character made up in your mind, and you just want to go ahead and download one of these, I will show you how to do that. But first off, let's go to the section where you would try to import your own character. So, first off, I think it's time to blow this scene, because we got Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. Yes, I have his model right here. It's loaded up. He's in a T-pose that is going to be very important for the rigging process. You can also use an A pose, which would be like this. If you're not aware of what an A pose is, it'll be something like this, where his legs would be like that, and his arms would be something like that. However, I find that a T-pose is much easier to work with, so if you can, have him like this, or her, or whoever you're trying to rig. Although, I will say that sometimes within Mixamo itself, there can be problems where if your character isn't a T-pose but the legs are very thick, or the clothing is kind of merging within one another, the legs will be stuck together once you finish rigging. The rigging will work, but the legs will be basically like glued, so that might not be the best option. And if that does happen, you either have to separate them yourself, or just go with the A pose, which is this, as I showed you earlier, which is that, and therefore the legs will not be stuck like that. And then yeah, but if you have a character that is already rigged and you just want to use the model, so you can use Mixamo to rig that model, which is what I do. I will show you how to remove the rig from here. You select it, hit X, and you delete it. Now, that was fairly easy, but there are times where the fingers or some parts of the model may be in an already posed way, and you want to pose it to make it into a T-pose or something very similar, so it can work better with the rigging. So for example, if I wanted to move his fingers here, so for example, if I wanted to change the way his hand was posed, right? So if his hand was in a fist, and I want to pose it, so it's in an outstretched kind of way. Let me just go ahead and do that real quick. So if I wanted to change it, let's say his thumb was like this, right? Or let's say his thumb was like this, okay? But for the rigging process, I wanted to have his thumb be like this, okay? Okay, fine. Boom. Go here, and you select the rig, and you press X to delete it, oh, his thumb goes back to how it was. It's a problem. So how do you go ahead and fix that from being a thing? Well, you will select the spike model itself. For some models, there'll be like multiple sections of the model. It's usually not like this, like to where it's like just one piece. Sometimes the arm and the hand will be one section, and the torso and the hair and the face and the feet. But in this case, it's all one thing. So you go ahead and you will click on every single piece, and you go to this little section here, the tool, and you see that an armature is applied to it here. So what you want to do is you go and click this arrow and you hit apply. Now, if I zoom into the hand here, just go ahead and zoom into it real quick so you can see closely. You go to object mode and you select the rig and you X delete it. Now the pose is retained because the rig was applied. Now, for my case, I'm not going to do that here. I just wanted to show you how you would do it if you wanted to change the pose or whatever the case may be. So, let's quickly just delete the rig and then boom. Okay. So then, once you have your model how you want it, you go to File, and you go to Export. Now there are a lot of options here. There's a DAV file, ABC, PDF, FBX, what's all this stuff. The two file types that I recommend you use the most are FBX and OBJ. Those are the ones that I've been using, and yeah, OBJ is the one that's like the standard, I guess. But for this one, I'll go FBX. But either or is fine. So FBX, and you will save it to wherever you have your folder for the model. I will name him Spike No Arm, as in no armature. And export, and then there you go. Now let's hop on over to Mixamo. I'm just going to quickly go ahead and remove him here. Hop over to Mixamo, and you click on Upload Character. Now here you will only be able to import file types such as a zip, an OBJ, and an FBX. So we have FBX. Select it. Go to wherever it's saved. This folder here. No arm. That's the one we saved. Go ahead, hit open, and then it'll upload it. So here it is. As you can see, his hair's purple. Everything is purple. It's green. It's all like messed up. Like where are the colors and shit? Where are my textures? Your textures are still there. Like, sort of. Okay. What this means is that the model that you currently have imported had a bunch of textures on it. Now, this is like a case-by-case thing, but sometimes after you're done rigging, the textures will be retained. Sometimes they won't. If they won't, you have to go ahead into the shading tab in Blender, and you have to import them back in yourself. But for this case, it seems like they were retained, but that remains to be seen. So you hit next, and this is where things get a little bit fun, I guess, because this is all the rigging process is right here. You have little points. You have the chin, wrists, and the elbows, knees, and the groin, and you can select, and you click and drag, and you put them wherever you feel that those points need to go. So his chin, I can see, is there. His wrists, I can see, are there. Take your time on this, please. Elbows are there. Knees, I can see, are right there. groin is right around here. Not completely on the crotch, but just above it. So right here. It's not here in the stomach or the chest or the waist. It's right here. As you can see on the example they give, it's not on the waist, on the chest, on here. It's right there in the middle, right there. So that's where it is. As far as down here, for the skeleton, this is just for like the hands. So the standard skeleton is like your 5 fingers and everything, and like every individual finger has a bone, right? For the 3 chain, that is, these 3 fingers are a bone. Here's a bone. Here's a bone. So it's 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. For the 2 chain, it's just these 4 fingers are just 1 bone and the thumb, and you can have the hand be a bone as well. So 1 chain, and then there it is for 2. For this one, I will go for a standard skeleton, which is all of the hands, the fingers, have the bone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit next. Use symmetry. It just means that the line will be in the middle, so you can have it there as a guide. I usually have it on because it makes it a lot easier to select the points for the chin and for the groin. But yeah, so you hit next, and that's it. The rigging process will begin, and all you do is have to sit here. Depending on your speed of your computer, or your Wi-Fi, or whatever the case may be, this may take up to 2 minutes, or it may take 30 seconds. In most cases with me, it's taken no longer than 30 seconds. So here we go. He is fully rigged. He's moving around to give you a little, like a test animation here, just to see how he looks, and he looks amazing to me. So hit next. Your 3D character has been uploaded. Proceed with this new character. The previous character will not be saved. So if you have a character already loaded, he or she, they, whatever the case may be, they will be removed. So next. And here we are. So in order to export this character in the T-pose, you go to Animations, and you search T-pose. Enter. And there it is, a T-pose. There it is. Boom. For like a test animation or for like a preset thing, you will select the preset, and you can select a whole bunch of different like settings here to change how the animation looks. But for this, we're not doing that. So go T-pose, and you can download it here, and you can also change the posture for it. As you can see, his posture is all messed up now. He's bent over a lot. He has a hunchback. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 100. The overdrive, I'm not sure what the overdrive is, but I assume it has to do with the keyframes that will be there once you import it. I will show you guys those later. So I'm just going to reset it to 50, and the character arm space is just an A pose, and then that, and then I keep pointing them up. That's how it is. For this, so we're just going to leave it how it is and reset. Download. Format FBX. Skin. I believe this is like the skeleton. So like if you just want the rig thing, I guess you could just have it there. And then I believe that's what that is. But it's not important for what we're doing here today. For the FPS, this is just for if you have a preset animation. But usually you want to leave it at 30. So, keyframe reduction, I believe, uniform and non-uniform, I believe that's, again, for the preset animations, but we don't really have to worry about that for this, so just hit none. And then download and save it to the folder where your model is currently located. For me, it's here, and it's already here. I'm going to name him Spike Mixamo rig. Hit save, and there we go. Now back into Blender. Here we are. I'm gonna go ahead and try to open up a new scene here because I don't want all this stuff here. So file, new, file, new, general, and save. I don't really want this stuff here, so you hit A to select all, X, delete. Just a keyboard shortcut for you there. So to import, go to File, Import, go to the file type you have it saved as. We have FBX, so you click it and you go to where it's located. Spike Mixamo rig, import. And if it's all zoomed out here and you're trying, to zoom in, but it's not really working, it's like, you can press the period key to zoom in for you. And it's going to focus on whatever thing you have selected. And there you go. Most times I like to have the rig to appear through the model. So if that's what you want as well, to be able to see all the bones clearly, you select the rig, go to this little man running down here, click it, viewport display over here, and select in front. And there you go. Now when you pose it, you can see everything clearly. Now, you have to download an add-on, the Mixamo add-on. And if you're not sure where to get it, whoops, my bad. Mixamo add-on, it's a simple Google search. Mixamo Blender is the first one, and here we go. So you hit get add-on and it'll download it as a zip file. You do not need to unzip that file. As soon as you download it, here's what you do. Go to Blender, you hit edit, preferences, go to add-ons, and you hit install. Then you select the zip file that you just downloaded with the add-on, and it'll show up here. You have to click the check mark and then hit save and load, and save your preferences, and then it'll be good. I'm not going to save that obviously because I already have it. One more little thing for Mixamo. When you are first getting into it, it will ask you to create an account. I already have an account, but you can just make one using an existing Google account, which is what I did. It says DragonLZ and not Zara because I made this back before I had my name changed. But yeah, and I believe you have to make an account to get the add-on as well. I mean, maybe you do. Let's see. There's no like sign-in thing here, so forget add-on. Okay, no. Okay, so you're good. You don't need an account to get the add-on, but you do in order to use the site itself. So there's that. Okay, back to Blender. So once you have the add-on, you press N on your keyboard to bring up this little side panel. You see Mixamo here. Click it. Well, you select the rig first, and you hit Create Control Rig. Now for preset animation, you will have this checked. We don't. So we don't. Okay. For the IK arms, IK legs, that's essentially when you click on the wrist or the ankle and you move it, the entire knee will be affected, and like it'll move it very smoothly for you. And if you have a spine bone and you move it up and down, the arms and the knees will bend, like based on where you have that moved. So 9 times out of 10, I will recommend that you leave these checked, because they're very important and they will make the animation process a lot smoother. Not just easier, smoother for you, the animator. So hit OK. And here's our control rig. Now, about those keyframes that I was talking about earlier. Before you create the control rig, you might have noticed there are these keyframes down here. And this is what I was referring to earlier. You're going to want to go ahead and remove those. So you select them, you just drag select X, delete keyframes, and then you can proceed with the creating of the control rig. And then here you go. I will go over how to maneuver around this later, but for now, also you press N to get rid of this, and you press T to get rid of this side panel if you want things to look more clean. Okay, so you have your control rig, have your model. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and I did all the texturing. As you can see, I'm not gonna go over that process for this video, because it's not really the point of this, although it is important. And like, as far as like the animation is concerned, you know, as far as like a visual thing, you know, because I'm sure you don't want to, you know, like, have the whole animation looking like this the entire time. You know, you want to spice it up and add some cool visuals and shit, like when it's rendered and everything. I understand that for sure. But I'll link a video down below that's gonna explain what to do as far as, like, if you have a model that you imported from like the SFM workshop or something, those materials will be in that video and he'll explain it perfectly. But there are going to be times where you will need to go with like a different process as far as that's concerned. So I may make a video in the future that goes over that. But anyway, I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. Let's go ahead and move on to the actual rig and the animation section of this, which is the main portion and the most fun, I feel like. So let's go. Let's dive right in to the tools. So first of all, if you're not sure how to pose something, you click on the rig, or like whatever rig you may have, but I would assume it's this one if you're following me along throughout this entire process. You click on it and you go to object mode up here and you click pose mode. Boom. And you see everything has turned blue and orange and green, and those are pretty cool colors if I do say so myself. So here you are. You have your rig, you're in pose mode. Now what? Because if you notice, when you click on a bone, there's no option to move it. There's no anything. What? Like, what's going on? It's because you don't have a tool selected. You press T on your keyboard and that'll bring up this left-hand side menu with all these fancy tools. Now, the only ones that you're like absolutely going to need for this are these four right here, but the most important one that I feel like you'll need is this main one, okay? Because these three are all like separate ways to move and to rotate and to scale something, right? But this fourth one has all of those controls wrapped up into one. So you see the move here, it's just like this. As you can see, you can move it around, but it's not really useful for moving around, the joints, unless you want to be like exaggerated with it, which is okay too, because that is a principle. Okay, so the next one is rotate, and this one is probably going to be the second most useful one to you, because you have like the highlighted thing here in the middle. So you click that, and you get to move around the head. Let me just zoom in, because it's kind of hard to see like the highlighted bit when you're like zoomed in. So zoom out a little bit, and it's right there, as you can see more clearly. And yes, so this one, move around, and it's pretty useful for most of your posing. And obviously you have this white little the white circle outline here is just for your rotation. And this the green axis here, and the red and the blue. The red one is going front to back. It's locked on a certain axis. It's locked. Okay. Same thing with the blue. It's locked on a certain axis. He's going, no, it's not. Yes, it is, Spike. And the green one goes side to side as well, just like this one. It's on the same thing. So that is the rotation tool. But this one is for the scale. This one, you're probably not really going to be using this one too much, but if you want to, you can, for like a specific kind of, like pose or whatever it is you're trying to go for. You have options. So first off, these little scalers here, the red and the blue. The red one scales it to the side, from side to side. Obviously, as you can see, the axis here, and it scales it right along that one. So he looks like fucking Stewie Griffin or some shit. And the blue one scales it upwards in this direction along the Z axis, and he looks really funny like that. And this little green box just scales it so that it's uniform, so that's why it's like in between these two. So it's very uniform, so you can have like a bobblehead look going on. Oh no, it scales it uniformly, but it doesn't change the thickness, because for that you will need to rotate around your scene and click this green one back here, which is the same one as the red and blue one I showed you previously. And when you move that one, it scales it along the Y axis, which makes them look just fucking hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, so there's that. The white circle is scaling it. So this is the one where it's like completely uniform now, so it's gonna scale it in every single axis, the blue, the green, and the red, or the X, the Z, and the Y. So it's scaling it so that's completely uniform, and he looks really funny. This little one right here, the smaller circle, is gonna scale it along the Z. So it's the same one as before, and I did it. I way overdid it. So yeah, there's that one. Now for the final tool, this one is all of those tools wrapped into one. So you have the scale, you have the rotation, and you have the gyro, or the ball, the trackball movement. So there you go. This is the one that I like to use, not because it's like the best one, I guess, but just because it has all of these movements wrapped up into one, so like if you wanted to scale it, or like you wanted to move it, you don't have to like constantly switch back and forth, which it could be very annoying. So you can leave it on this one, and you can move it. So obviously, as you saw before, this one has everything, including one that I have not shown yet, which is the G to grab, which is this little white circle. I know that here the white circle is to scale, but that's because this is a scale tool. But this one is the transform, which includes everything. So this white circle is actually your G key to grab. So I press that and I hold it, and it's like that. And I can also use that sort of movement if I were to press G and move it around like that. So it's the same function for those two things. And obviously you have your rotation. Oh, no, that's a scale. But you have that as well. You have your scale, you have your rotation, you have this Z rotation right here, and you have a rotation, and if you move it around, you have your move and your scale along all the axes. So yeah, this is everything wrapped into one. It can be kind of like confusing at first, you know, because like there are times where you go to grab a certain thing and like it's kind of hard to grab, you know, but they are highlighted ever so slightly, so hopefully you'll be able to distinguish them from one another. And if you make a mistake, Control Z is your best friend, but I'm sure you're already aware of that, because this is not a like a full-on how to use, you know, the program tutorial. This is how to use the tools, you know, that are like inside it, that are, you know, like dedicated, you know, to a specific thing. So this is not like a beginner's, like a Blender tutorial. If you think it is, you're probably confused. I hope you're not though, but yeah. So anyway, moving on to the bones. This one is the head one, obviously. It moves the head all around. The one below it is the neck, and it just moves the neck. I know that like it looks like, you know, the model is like really doing some weird stuff here. This is the neck here. It just moves the neck. These two here are for the shoulder. So you can rotate it. You can scale. Excuse me. You can scale it, which makes them look really weird. But there's that. This one I'm gonna go over in a second. But this one is your hand slash your arm IK. Now, what that basically means is that is your inverse kinematics for your arm and your hand. So basically, once you move around this bone using this middle circle or the G key for grab, you'll be able to affect the whole arm, including the elbow, and it will also bend it for you. So you press G, or you just click the middle circle, which is the same function, and it moves around the entire arm with the elbow, and it looks really cool. And this just makes it so much more simple to do things. So you have that. And also, if you use any other, like the rotation or the scale, for this tool, you'll be affecting the hand. So let me just zoom in. There you go. You're now affecting the hand, and he's waving hi. Hello, Spike. How are you doing? And yeah, one thing that I will mention though, and this is very important, so pay close attention. The way something is moved or rotated or scaled solely depends on where you are looking within the scene. So if I am completely front facing, the rotation will be right here in the front, okay? However, if I'm to the side, like a side view here, the rotation will be like that. You see how it's different? So let me just split the view real quick. So front, and here's side. As you can see from this view, the rotation is like that, Okay, but you see how on the right screen it's moving in the same way? It's because I'm not moving it from that screen. I am moving it from the left side. Okay, but as soon as I rotate it here on the right side, it starts to rotate like that. So how you move something is solely dependent on where you are viewing it from. Unless, of course, you are scaling it, or you're moving it, or you're rotating it along a certain axis, in which case it will be locked. So if I do it here, this only moves the bone, but that's just an example. It only moves the bone there. Okay, so like it only is gonna move it along a certain axis, so where you're looking at it from does not really matter. Okay, so let me just go to the head, and to show you it more smoothly. So it doesn't matter if you're here, top, bottom, left, right, whatever. If I do it along the Y, it's only going to rotate it like that, and it doesn't matter. Oh, I guess it does. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so there we go. From side to side there, and top view. So see, it's locked. It does not matter where you are located in the scene. The rotation and the movement is locked completely, so it'll be like that. The same thing goes for your rotation along the Z. It doesn't matter where you are, it's locked. And the same thing applies to the scale lock as well. So there you go. So as far as the hand itself and the fingers look very confusing at first, but I promise you they're not. So each part of the finger has a disc bone where the joint is. So the thumb has 3, and your index has 3, your middle 3, ring 3, and your pinky has 3 as well. They all have 3. So the base just affects the base of the thumb, and the middle one affects that part of the thumb, and then this one obviously is with this part of the thumb. So the index is the same thing. Here's the base. Here's this part right here for the finger, and this part here for the top part here. And it's pretty self-explanatory as far as all that's concerned. Just make sure that you click on the bone, and you make sure that it's the one that you want to have. They highlight pretty well, so you shouldn't have any issues as far as the selecting is concerned. But if you do, just go back and reselect. Obviously, you're not going to want to pose from this far out because it looks like a jumbled mess. You're going to want to zoom in and pose it how you want to. And you can also select multiple bones at the same time and pose them. So if you are like you're strapped for time, you can select this and you hold shift, select, and you can let go of shift, and then you move, and it moves everything at once, which can save a lot of time depending on what pose you are doing. So as for the hand, as you saw, it moves the elbow around and the hand, all that stuff. And you can rotate the hand as well. I don't believe I showed everything as far as that's concerned, but you can rotate it along there and along the axes as well. They all have the axis bone, and it's all good as far as that's concerned. You can scale it But as you saw earlier, it doesn't really move the hand. It just, kind of moves the bone around it, which could be useful if you can't see the bone all that clearly. So maybe that is something to consider for yourself. Now this one here, this is your elbow, and this is the rotation of your elbow. So let's say I moved this this bone right here, and I move the hand, just make it look a lot better. And let's say I wanted him to have his hands on his hips or some shit, right? Okay, and his hips. Okay, rotate it, whatever. Make it look presentable for the time being. So there we go. He's got his hands on his hips, right? Now let's say I wanted his elbow to be right here. You can't really do that with just this. It's really hard. So for that, you have this bone right here, which is your rotation of the elbow. So you click it, and how you move this is you have to grab it. The only function that works is the grab. So I'm gonna show you what happens if you try to use anything else. It rotates the bone. Yes, so that's useful, I guess. If you can't see it as well, you can, move it, and you can scale it. But as you can see, I did it. All right, so for grab, it's the white circle in the middle as always. So hold it, and you're moving around the elbow, and you're changing the position of the elbow. So there you go. It's very useful, and as I said before, when you move something in Blender, it all depends on where you're looking. So from this point of view, it's like that. But from back here, it's along the back, like that. From the top, it's like that, which is the same thing as this. But yeah, it's pretty useful. Just put him back. So yeah, very useful, very amazing. This is like your baby right here. So as far as the torso is concerned, you have a total of 4 bones for your torso. Like the main one, okay? So, for the top one, this controls the upper torso. And because of the IKs, it also affects the arms. For the middle part, it affects the middle part of the torso. For like a gut punch or some shit, like or some shit, yeah. For this one, or the third one, it affects the lower part. So there you go. You can rotate it however way you want. That looks weird. All right. The final one, the fourth one, this is going to be a little different, okay? This is going to be moving and rotating in the opposite direction. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to show you what I mean by it. It's this. So when you rotate it and you move it along, it's like this, and it's in the opposite, so you can basically like move his hips around and stuff. So you can do that, and he looks really funny. So yeah, this is useful for rotating the hip if you're posing something and it looks a little off around here. Just grab this bone, move it around a little bit, and see where it needs to go. For this little orange box, this is going to be your spine. So the most interesting and the most important thing that you're going to be doing with this, I'm going to show you that first. So for this, you'll be using your move tools, meaning your the green, the blue, and the red arrows. So I'm going to zoom out to show you what happens when you move it on the blue, which is your z-axis, okay? So you grab the little arrow, click it, and look at that. Okay, because this also has some IKs attached to it, So when you move it along the z-axis, it also affects his knees and his legs, which is fucking awesome. Look at that. Fucking amazing. Okay? Just so useful. So important. But everything else just rotates this, like all of this. So you rotate it, and it moves everything. His legs, his arms, and if you rotate it, it does that. And it does everything under the sun. It affects his knees too if you rotate it a certain way. So like that, and you rotate it, and, it's affecting everything, so use that to your heart's content. It's very useful. These guys down here, they function the same way as the elbow up here. So if I were to move the leg, okay, you move it here, and you grab this, and it functions the same way, and it moves the knee. And again, it's very useful, and it helps. There you go. So as far as the foot is concerned, this main bone right here, this large box around the foot, this is going to control the foot itself. All that. If you rotate it, you got some cool pivot going on. And obviously for the axes, you can scale it, and it looks really weird, but I don't recommend you do that unless you're doing some kind of like exaggerated stuff. Look at that. He's got clown feet now. You can make him have clown feet if you want. There you go. So yeah, and you can move it around to affect the leg as well, because there's IKs attached to it, and you can make them do a lot of cool stuff. Now I'm sure you've noticed, by the way, that the bone is moving separate from the foot. So if you move it along, slowly but surely the bone starts to detach. That might be a problem, if not for the fact that you can easily just do this. Okay, it's over there. You can move it back, and you can rotate it, and just do your best to keep it in place, and you should be fine. I know it looks like it's going to be a huge problem, but it's really not. So as far as this back here, these arrows, whoa, they can be confusing sometimes, but I'm going to show you what they do. They affect, you see? Certain bones don't work with certain rotation and scaling and certain tools. You have to use certain movements with certain bones. So for this one in particular, you use the trackball. No, you don't. You use the grab. Like for the pivot of the knees and the elbows, you use the grab here. So that is G, or the middle circle right there. And that basically is going to pivot you on the heel or the toe, which is nice. And for this little barrel roll thing here, this is going to move you on your actual toes and your heel just a tiny bit if you want to. And if you go to the side, it's the same rotation regardless of where you're positioned. In this case, because it's the toes and you see the barrel, it's going in this direction. And that's where it's going to be rotated, so you can get a little hee Michael Jackson. And the difference between this one is when you move it, his toes do not bend at all. See? Okay, but for this one here, they do bend. So it's much more precise in that way. For the final bone, as like a part of the foot at least, this one is just your toe. Just move it around, it controls just your toe, and you can get a lot of cool poses out of that. Do everything as far as that's concerned. You can scale it to make his toes larger or smaller if you want, or whatever. You can scale it along that and make them look weird. But yeah, so that is all the bones here. As far as like the posing of the model is concerned, I'm sure you've noticed there's a final one down here, which is the most important one out of all of them, I think. And then if you use it wrong, it can fuck your entire thing up. Okay, so let me show you the problems first, and I'll show you how to actually use it. So this is your main control bone. All right. Now you're probably thinking, okay, this is what allows me to move around the entire model. Yes, you're correct. Okay. So if you're someone who is wanting to change the position of your entire thing here, your model, you'd probably want to select A, right, for all, A for all, to select every single bone, okay, because you want to move the entire thing, right? Right, okay, so let's see what happens when you do that. Your pose is completely destroyed. Why is that? Well, it's because this main control bone here allows you to move it wherever you want. You see, the position is changing. But the reason why all these bones are fucking up too is because you have them selected. So if you have them selected and you go to move it and rotate it, this does move and rotate, okay, but all of these bones do as well. So the rig is basically like, what do we do? Okay, he wants to move this, so I'm going to move this, but he also wants to move the position around, so I'm going to do it like that. So it's confused in a way. So you don't want to hit A if you want to move the entire thing, the whole model. You want to just select this. So when you do that, you can move it around however you want, and nothing is affected besides the positioning of the rig itself. So there we go. It's kind of confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's fine. So there you go. And that covers all of the bones. Now to move on to the keyframing and everything down here, which can be confusing at first, but like I said, with this control bone right here, once you get the hang of it, it's all good. So we're going to start on that right now. Okay, so for your keyframing, this will be your timeline down here. If you want to make it larger, you can just grab here and move it up or down depending on how big you want it to be. Now, first things first, I will say there are certain controls that you can do both here and here, but your cursor has to be either over top of the window or it has to be clicked on it. So for example, if I hit G, or let's say for example I have some keyframes here. I have 1, I have 2, and I have 3. Okay, just for example. I know it looks crazy, but this is just for example, right? Okay, so I have these keyframes here. Okay, let's say I wanted to select all these, right, and hit grab. Okay, it's moving all the keyframes. Fine. Okay, but if I were to go here and select this, if the cursor is hovered over this window and then I hit G, whoa, it's moving the entire model. Why? Is because my cursor is hovered over this window, so like everything that I press is going to affect the window that the cursor is hovered over. But as soon as I go here and I hit G, boom, it moves the keyframe. So pay attention to that. That is really important. So I'm just gonna go back. All right, so I'm sure you've noticed that I clicked this, and as I moved, I didn't have to press a keyframe. What? This is called auto keying. This will be This will either be your best friend or your worst enemy. So what this does is every time you move a bone, it is going to record that movement and set it as a keyframe. So there we go. Boom, boom, right? When you are just starting out on an animation and you want to use this, okay, your first pose is obviously not going to be recorded. You know, like, if that is your first pose. So for that, you will need to set that keyframe manually. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. For that, and if you don't want to use this, you know, it's fine if you do or you don't. But this is mainly, you know, for like if you're trying to animate and you're like strapped for time or something, and you forget to add a keyframe after that multiple times, and it's really annoying to deal with, you know, because then you go back and you watch it over and it's like, wait a minute, this keyframe wasn't set, what the hell? How to manually set it. There are a few ways to do that. So that's off now. If I move this here, right, or move that there, or do this, okay? So to set the keyframes for all the bones, I like to set the keyframes for all the bones, even if I'm not moving a certain bone, because I like to keep the keyframes organized. Okay, because if I click on a certain bone, the keyframe might not show up, and like the keyframes are not solely based on like every excuse me. The keyframes are not solely based on every single keyframe that you have set, if that makes sense. So if I set a keyframe for this bone here, like just this bone, right, and I press I, that is the keyboard shortcut for keyframing, I, and then I want it to go into the keyframe for the head, right, which is here, and then move it along, or do that and press I as well. And then I wanted to go and set a keyframe for this on 10 and press I. When I click down here on the timeline and I select this bone, it's only going to show the keyframe for this bone because you didn't have the keyframe for everything. And vice versa, if I select this, it's only going to show the keyframe for that, and then I select this, it's only going to show the keyframe for that. So this can be useful in certain scenarios if you remember like exactly where you set it, but 9 times out of 10, if you're like in the thick of the process, you're not really going to. So what I recommend is to, instead of doing all that, you move one bone, okay, regardless of whichever one it is, you hit A and then I. So that way, regardless of what bone you click on, the keyframe will show, and it keeps you really organized, and you can see every single keyframe regardless of what you do, unless you happen to click off the bone, which of course is not going to show the keyframe because you're not selecting anything. Okay, and speaking of the keyframes, when you have a number of keyframes here, okay, you have that. Let's just let me just turn on auto keying for this. If you have a keyframe there, and then a keyframe there, and then a keyframe here, right? There are times where you open up Blender, or like you're in the middle of animating and you have a bone selected and you see the keyframes, and then all of a sudden it seems like you don't have them anymore, which is boom. Oh no. Where did they go? So the little slider that I have here, this is only for left and right. There is no slider for up and down. Oh, there is. Okay. These are the experiences. Okay, so it only shows up if you're hovered in this section. I'm not sure why it does that. I'm sure it should be there all the time, but it's not. So even for things like that, like if you didn't know that you can slide it up from here, then you'd be screwed, right? So this is how I figured out how to see my keyframes again. So if you click the middle mouse button, you hold it, and you drag down, you're moving the timeline up. See that? So you can see your keyframes like that. I promise you, I was stuck on this for like an hour, and I could not figure out where the fuck my keyframes were because I was selecting everything and my keyframes just weren't showing up. So as you just saw, I literally just figured out that you can have it like this as well, but it doesn't, like, this tool is not there all the time, because as soon as you move your cursor, it's not there anymore. I've probably seen that like 1,000 times over the course of me using the timeline, and just like never like seen it, or like was like paying attention to it, because it just like it goes away as soon as you move move off from it, so it's kind of annoying in that regard, and that's probably why I'm just now seeing it. But yeah, there it is. So yeah, be wary of that. There's also another way to add keyframes if you don't want to do auto and you don't want to press I for the shortcut. You can use the right mouse button. So if you move a bone, let's see, we're on frame 2 or whatever. Move bone, right mouse button, insert keyframe, which all of the keyboard shortcuts will always be on the right side of like whatever you're trying to do. So you see I, you click it, and it successfully adds all of your keyframes to whichever bone you have selected. You can also keyframe 2 bones at once. And you can select 2 bones at once as well. So if I wanted to select this one and the knee, for example, you hold shift, by the way. You select, hit shift, or hold shift, select the other bone, and if I move it, it's like that, which is it's looking kind of crazy, but boom, and then you hit I, or you right click and you insert keyframe, and then it makes a keyframe on both of these. So that's really cool. Although if you have both of those posed and you use the method that I was talking about earlier, which you hit A for all, then you wouldn't really have to worry about that. But just something to note, because not like the things that I am talking about here are the way that I happen to do them, but of course here and there I'm going to showcase other things that you could do if you don't want to use the thing that I'm showing you. Like, for example, the tools up here, you don't have to use this one. You can just as easily swap back and forth between these if you'd like, but I am suggesting that you use this one because it's the most versatile in terms of the tools that you get, and you don't have to constantly flip-flop back and forth. So as far as keyframes are concerned, again, if I have a selection of keyframes here, I'm just turn this back on, and you have a keyframe there, 4 keyframe there, 8 keyframe there, and then 12 keyframe there. You can move all the keyframe with your G. You can either select them all with A down here, or you can drag, select, and select them all with the box, or you can click and hit shift and do it like that. It's like 3 ways to do the same thing, right? So I'm gonna hit A, and you can just move them around, and it's gonna change your position, but you can move around keyframes, and you can change like the timing as well. So like if it's like that, right? He's doing a little dance, okay. But if I wanted to have the speed to be sped up between here, you close the gap. So like that. So in terms of the timeline itself, right? Well, you know what? I'm gonna go over one more thing as far as the keyframes are concerned. To copy a set of keyframes, or just one, you click it, you right click, copy, and then if you go to frame 20 or whatever frame you want, you right click again and you hit paste. And that's it. And a shortcut for that is obviously if you click it, Control C, and then you go to here, Control V is paste, and then it just does that by yourself, or by, you know, like by itself, and it's fine. So it controls on the timeline. Oh, I have no more undos. Okay, so I'm actually happy that actually showed up. There are a limited number of Control Z's that you have for like the undo. There's a limit there. There is 30. Yeah, there is 30. So if I go back with Control Shift Z, I can like re-put everything on there, right? Let's do it. Okay, so Control. Let's count. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh, 31. 32. Okay, so there's a lot more than I thought there was. Okay, so there's around 30 to 32 fucking undos that you can do. So please keep that in mind if you're trying to go back a lot. There's a limit. Okay. So anyway, just delete all those keyframes. So there you go. He's kind of stuck like this, so I'm gonna reopen this real quick, and I have him back in a T pose because it's more convenient for me. So yeah. Okay. We're back where we want to be. So these buttons here, if you have it, let me just go back. If you have a certain number of keyframes, you can play your animation and all that. So I'm gonna show you what these buttons do down here. If you have a keyframe, oh, I'm sorry. If you have a keyframe, just like that, and then that, and then that, and that. Then you play it. To play it, you use a space bar, or use this to play it. This button right here. And if you do the one that's next to it, you play it backwards, which is pretty cool. This button will go to the very next frame, or like the very next keyframe rather, and this will skip all the way to the end, so it's at 50. So as far as the timing and all that stuff is concerned, right here you have your start. You can select the starting point like that, or you can click and drag like that, or you can even type out a number, so 5. Boom. So end, it's the same thing. You can set your endpoint in the same way. So as far as the scrolling in and out of the timeline and zooming in and out, scroll on your middle mouse button on the middle mouse button, so you can zoom out or in, and your keyframe or the keyframes, like the numbers are concerned, they will show up and they'll disappear. So as you zoom in, more of the timeline will be shown. As you zoom out, less of it. This is useful if you have a lot of keyframes and you want to zoom out and just like select them all or some shit, or whatever the case may be for you, like that you may want to do as far as that is concerned. So now that you have all that in mind, and just the main things as far as the basics are concerned, you might want to animate something. I'm going to be animating Spike doing a kick, or 2 kicks rather. So I'll be doing that, and it's not going to be like a live thing. I'm going to speed it up just to show you that you can animate using the basics that I showed you here, using everything that I just talked about. You can animate something pretty awesome just using this stuff. There is something called the graph editor, which is more advanced, but but this is it's like a basics thing here. And yeah, I'll be animating that right now, so I'll meet you back when I am done. And I think that just about does it, you guys. That whole process was about like 5 to 10 minutes for you, but over 2 hours for me. I know it was such a short thing, but regardless of how long it took me, I'm very happy with it, and I'm glad that I was able to you know to do this. I thank you for watching, and I thank you for staying to the end. If you have or did, that means a lot to me. And I hope that through this whole time, you've actually maybe learned something, and you hopefully use the things that I've shown to hopefully make your own animations, for yourself, or like with your character using Mixamo, because Mixamo is an absolutely amazing service, and I've been using it for a while now. And yeah, be well, stay well. Hope you guys are doing good, and yeah, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.